My name is James Mantap. I welcome you to our Anatomy and Physiology series. If you've ever wondered how the human body works, why we breathe, move, feel, and ever think, the answer lies in this subject. Now, over the next series of lectures, we'll take a deep dive into the structure and functions of the human body, system by system. So today, we'll begin with the foundation, Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. Now, we'll start by defining what anatomy and physiology is. So, what is anatomy? The simple definition for anatomy is the study of the structure of body parts. And we have examples. The heart, which has 4 chambers. So, the heart here is the structure that's been looked at and considered that it has 4 chambers. Now, physiology, also, on the other hand, is the study of the functions of those parts. Take, for instance, the heart pumps blood through rhythmic contraction. The heart pumps blood to different parts of the body. The muscles contract and relax to bring about movement. All these are functions. Okay, so now the key point here is anatomy is all about what it is, while physiology, what it does. Are we together? Now, the next stage of our lecture is levels of structural organization. Now, the human body is organized in hierarchy. Okay? Now, each of these or each of its parts contribute to the total organism. And we have about 6 levels of organization, but we'll dwell much more on the last 5. Now, the first layer of level of organization is the chemical level. Now, the chemical level basically focus on atoms that will later form molecules, and the build up. Okay, then example of such are the oxygen, water, proteins, and so forth. Now, the second level of organization is the cellular level. Now, when we talk of the cellular level here, we are looking at what the cell is. All right. Now, the cell, by definition, is the basic structural and functional component of life. Now, the human as a being are multicellular organisms. The human has over 60 to 100 trillion cells. Now, it is at the microscopic cellular level that vital functions of life, such as metabolism, growth, irritability, repairs, replication, are carried on. And the human body contains many of these distinct kinds of cells. Now, each of these cells, they are specialized to perform specific functions. For example, we have specialized cells such as the bone cells, the muscle cells, the fat cells, blood cells, liver cells, nerve cells. Now, the unique structure of each of these cells type is actually directly related to its functions. Now, the next level of cellular level of structural organization is the tissue level. Now, by definition, the tissue level are actually group of similar cells. Please take note of this, a group of similar cells that perform a common function. Okay. Now the entire body is composed of four principal kinds of tissue in the body, and they include the epithelial cells, the connective tissue, the muscles tissue, the nervous tissue. Now, an example of a tissue is the muscles within the heart, and these muscles, their function is to pump blood through the body. I can also give another function example of a tissue in the body. That's the outer layer of the skin, and the outer layer of the skin is called the epidermis. The epidermis. Now, it is composed of similar cells that together serve as a protective shield for the body. Okay. Now, the study of cell is known as cytology, while the study of tissue is called histology. Are we together? The next level of organization, these are building blocks. The next level is the organ level. Now, the organ level here is has to do with an aggregate of two or more tissue types that perform a specific function. So, when you have two or more tissues coming together to perform a particular function, that is considered as an organ. I have examples of organs which include the heart, the spleen, the kidney, the pancreas, the ovaries, skin, and even bones within the body are examples of organs. Now, let me also give us another example. For instance, in the stomach, the inside epithelial lining is considered the primary tissue because the basic function of secretion and absorption occur within these layers. Now, the secondary tissues of the stomach are the connective tissue. You have the nervous tissue, also have the muscles tissue. So all these, they work together to form what we call organ. Now have the organ system level, which is the next one. The organ system, most time we refer to it as the system level. Okay, here is talking about the group of organs working together. Now, this group of organs, they don't just work together, they have similar or related functions. Example of systems that we have in the body are the circulatory system, which we normally call the cardiovascular system, or the nervous system. We have the endocrine system, the digestive system. Now, I want you to take note of this. There are organs in the body that may serve two systems. Let's take, for instance, the pancreas functions with both the endocrine and the digestive system. The pharynx also serve both the respiratory system and the digestive system. Are we together? Now, the last level of organization, which is the organism level. The organism level. Now, this level is the complete human body. So all this level of organization coming together, they form what we call organism level. That's a complete human body. Now, another way to look at this is you looking at how a house is built. They lay blocks one after the other, one at a time. Now, at the end of the day, you have what is called a house. So that house is what we refer to as organism or the complete human body. Are we together up to this level? Now, let's move to the next items. Now, the next items is anatomical terminology. Now, to avoid confusion, scientists use precise terms. Okay? Now, this is to help us to um, make reference to any part of the body in relation to the other. Now, the first and most important is anatomical position. Because if you understand what anatomical position is, you can easily make references to other organs and part of the body. Now, what is anatomical position? Anatomical position here, the body is standing upright or erect. The feet are parallel to each other and flat on the floor. The eyes are directed forward. The feet, and the arms are at the side of the body with the palms of the hands turned forward and fingers pointed straight down. So if you forget how to put this together, have this at the back of your mind. The anatomical position is standing upright. Even if the person is lying down, imagine that the person is standing upright. Look at the person in that position, upright position. He's facing forward. His arms are by the side. His feet too are parallel to each other. The palms are also facing forward. All right. So with that, you will be able to, you know, um, describe or ensure accuracy and consistency in describing any part of the body. Now we have what we call directional terms. Now these directional terms are paired terms or are terms that are used to describe the location of body part in relation to others. Okay, you use it to like relate to tell the position of this part in relation to the other. Now I have quite a number of them that we'll look at. The first is superior. You can see superior versus inferior in bracket above, below. So superior, you are looking at structures nearer the head. For example, you can say the skull is superior to the scapula. Okay. Then inferior, you are looking at structures further from the head. So using the skull and the scapula again, you can say the scapula is inferior to the skull. So the skull is up, is superior, the scapula is inferior. Above, below. Are we together? Now, we also have anterior versus posterior. Anterior means front. Another word for anterior is ventral. Okay. Now, another word for posterior, we say back, dorsal. So sometimes we use the word dorsal interchangeably, depends on where we're making references to. So anterior towards the front, posterior towards the back. Now, we also have the medial and lateral. When I talk of medial, you are looking at structures that is nearer to the midline. Because if you look at the body is divided into two halves. Structures that are nearer to the midline, you say they are medial. Let me give us an example. Using the heart and the humerus. The humerus is the bone of the upper arm. Now, if you want to tell which of them lies medial, which of them lies more to the midline, when you consider the heart and the humerus, of course, you see that the heart is medial to the humerus. So the heart is more to the midline when you compare it to the humerus. Now, lateral is like the opposite of medial. All right. Now, lateral is away. So structure that is further from the midline or at the side of the body, you can say they are lateral. Let's use the heart and the humerus again. Now, if you look at the position of the heart and the humerus, you can say that the humerus is lateral to the heart. Okay. Now, proximal and distal. Proximal is closer to origin, while distal is farther away from the site of origin. In another word, you can say proximal is nearer to a point of attachment of a limb or origin of a body part. If you look at the humerus or the femur, you can say the femur is proximal to the fibula. The humerus is proximal to the ulna. Okay. Now, distal we say is farther away. That means farther from the point of attachment of a limb or origin of a body part. So using femur and fibula, the fibula is distal to the femur. Hope that is very clear. Now, also have superficial and deep. Superficial is towards the surface, while deep is farther away from the surface. Are we together up to this point? Now, you need to understand this. Let's look at this structure. Now, from this structure, this is the part that we refer to as away. So if you are moving towards the head, you said it is superior. If you are moving coming down from the head, you say inferior. So away from the head, you said is inferior. Towards the head, you said is superior. Now, this is the midline. The midline. Now, the midline or the median line is a point of reference. So anything towards the midline, refer to it as medial. Anything away from the midline, we said is lateral. All right. And we also talked about proximal and distal. Proximal, using the limbs, we said towards the point of attachment is proximal. Away from the point of attachment is distal. Same with anterior and posterior. Anterior we say is towards the front, while posterior is towards the back. Now, also consider plane and cavities. Now, when you talk of body planes, we have three body planes which lies at right angle to each other. These divide the body into sections and are used to visualize or describe its internal arrangement from different perspectives. Now, the anatomical position is used as the reference position in description using body plane. So as I said earlier on, whatever you are doing, you look at that individual, whether he's lying on down, whether he's sitting, whether whichever position he or she assume, in an anatomical position. When you do that, you can easily visualize or describe the different part of the body in relation to others. Now we have the following plane. We have the sagittal plane. Now the sagittal plane is sometimes referred to as a median plane. But let me give us the difference between the sagittal and the median. The median plane divides the body longitudinally through the midline into right and left half. Okay? While the sagittal plane makes parallel to, or its mid section parallel to the median plane. So let's assume the body has been divided into two. That other half of the body that you want to maybe visualize, whatever, if you want to divide it into another two halves, that section or that plane is considered to be sagittal plane. So you are dividing into right and left, but not as the median plane, because the median plane, the section is longitudinal through the midline. All right, longitudinal through the midline. Now have the frontal plane. Another name for the frontal plane is coronal plane. Now the coronal plane or the frontal plane divide the body longitudinally into its anterior, that is front now, and posterior, which is back now, section. So now let's look at these two again, the median or the sagittal and coronal or frontal. Sagittal, we say right and left half. Coronal plane is into anterior and posterior half, or anterior and posterior section. Please take note. Sagittal or median is right and left half. Coronal or frontal is into anterior and posterior half. Are we together? Now the next plane is the transverse plane. The transverse plane, sometimes we refer to it as the horizontal plane. Now the horizontal plane or the transverse plane provides a cross section dividing the body or body part into upper and lower part, into top and bottom part. All right. Now this may be at any level, can be at the level of the cranial cavity, the level of the neck, the level of the thorax, abdomen, any part. Okay. So these planes are very, very important when describing the body. Now, before we look at the body cavity, I want us to quickly look at what body regions are. Okay. Now, the human body is divided into several regions that can be identified on the surface of the body. Now, this we have the major body regions, and these include the head region, the neck region, trunk, upper extremities, and lower extremities. Now, the trunk is frequently divided into thorax, the abdomen, and the pelvis. Okay. Now, the head, we all know, is divided into what we call the facial region and the cranial region. Now, the facial region includes our eyes, the nose, the mouth, all right? While the cranial region, or sometimes we call it the cranium, it covers and supports the brain. Now, the neck region is actually referring to the cervical region, which support the head and permits it to move. Okay. Then the trunk, as we said earlier on, is the portion of the body to which the neck and upper and lower extremities are attached. And the trunk includes what we call the trunk include the thorax, abdomen, pelvis or pelvic region. So the thorax, sometimes call it the thoracic region. It refers to as the chest. Okay. Then the abdomen is located below the thorax. The front of the abdomen is the umbilicus or the navel. It is a very obvious landmark. Now, the abdomen is also divided into 9 regions. We'll consider that in one of our lectures. Now, the 9 regions include the right hypochondriac, the epigastric, the left hypochondriac, the right lumbar, the umbilical, left lumbar, the right inguinal, hypogastric, and left inguinal. Okay. Now, the pelvic region it forms the lower portion of the trunk, and within the pelvic region is the pubic area, where we have pubic hair in sexually matured individual. Then also have the perineum, right? The perineum. the sacral region, you have the lumbar region, okay, that is small back. Now the upper extremities are looking at the arm, that is the shoulder, the arm, the forearm, and the manus, or the hand. But the lower extremities is consist of the hip, the thigh, the knee, the leg, and the foot. The thigh is commonly called the upper leg or femoral region. So we'll take this in details in our subsequent lectures. Now let's look at body cavity. First and foremost, let's define what cavity is or are. Now the simple definition of body cavities are confined spaces within the body. Anytime, any day, you're asked to define what body cavity is, just know that it is the confined space within the body, and they contain organs that are protected, compartmentalized, and supported by associated membranes. So there are two principal body cavities, and these include the posterior or dorsal body cavity. That one is small compared to the second, which is the larger anterior body cavity. Now each of them are divided into subsections. The posterior body cavity or the dorsal body cavity is further divided into the cranial cavity and the spinal cavity. Okay. Now the cranial cavity contains the brain, and its boundaries are formed by the bones of the skull, while the spinal cavity contains the spinal cord and is formed by the vertebral bones. Now the anterior cavity consists of cavities within the trunk, and they include the thoracic cavity, the abdominal cavity, and the pelvic cavity. Now take note, this is different from body region. This is different from body region. Don't use this to describe body region and thinking you are describing okay. Don't use body region to describe cavity. Don't use cavity to describe body region. Please take note. Are we together now? So let's look at the anterior cavity, its subsection, so to say. Now we said it includes the thoracic cavity, the abdominal cavity, and the pelvic cavity. So let's look at them one by one. Now what we're going to look at in each of these cavities is this: one, their location; two, the boundaries; and three, its content. So these are what we're going to consider in each of these cavities. So starting with the thoracic cavity. Now the thoracic cavity is situated in the upper part of the trunk. So the location is where? Upper part of the trunk. Now boundaries. Its boundaries are formed by the thoracic cage and supporting muscles. Now anteriorly, you have the sternum and the costal cartilages of the ribs. Laterally, that is away from the midline, you have the 12 pairs of ribs and the intercostal muscles. Now posteriorly, you have the thoracic vertebra, while superiorly, you have the structures forming the root of the neck. Inferiorly, the diaphragm, right? So these are the boundaries. We've looked at the location, now we've looked at the boundaries. So let's look at the content of the thoracic cavity. If you access the thoracic cavity, what are the likely structures that are found in the thoracic cavity? Now, the main organs and structures in the thoracic cavity include the trachea, two bronchi, two lungs. You also have the heart, the aorta. You have the superior inferior vena cava. You have the esophagus. You have lymph vessels. You have lymph node, some nerves. Now, within the thoracic cavity, you also have what is called the mediastinum. Now, the mediastinum is the space between the lungs, right? And you find the heart, esophagus, and blood vessels within the mediastinum. Now, let's move to the next cavity, the abdominal cavity. The same principle and the same way we tackle the thoracic cavity is the same way we look at the abdominal cavity. Remember, we start with the location. Now, the location of the abdominal cavity is found below the thoracic cavity with the diaphragm separating the two. And the abdominal cavity is the largest body cavity. Now, the boundaries are superiorly you have the diaphragm, which separates it from the thoracic cavity. Anteriorly, you have the muscles forming the anterior abdominal wall. While posteriorly, you have the lumbar vertebra and muscles forming the posterior abdominal wall. While laterally, you have the lower ribs and part of the muscles of the abdominal wall. Inferiorly, it continues with the pelvic cavity. So there's no distinct separation between the abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. Okay, now what are the contents? Now, the abdominal cavity is occupied by organs and glands of the digestive system. So if you can remember the organs and glands of the digestive system, you are good to go. All right. Now, these organs and glands of the digestive system, they include the stomach, the small intestine, most of the large intestine. You have the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, you have the spleen, you have the other structures, you have the kidney, you have the upper part of the ureters, you have the adrenal glands. Okay, also have blood vessels, lymph vessels, and nerve vessels. Okay, so these form the contents of the abdominal cavity. Now, the next cavity is the pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity is roughly funnel shape and extend from the lower end of the abdominal cavity. So where is the boundary? It extends from the lower end of the abdominal cavity. Now, the boundaries, superiorly, it continues with the abdominal cavity. Anteriorly, you have the pubic bones. Posteriorly, the sacrum and the coccyx. Laterally, you have the hip bones, the innominate bones. While inferiorly, you have the muscles of the pelvic floor. So what are the contents of the pelvic cavity? You have the sigmoid colon, you have the rectum, the anus. You have some loop of the small intestine. The urinary bladder and lower part of the ureter and urethra are also found in the pelvic cavity. Now, in the female, we have some organs of the reproductive system that are found in the pelvic cavity, and these include the uterus, the uterine tube, the ovaries, and the vagina. While in male, some of the organs of the reproductive system include the prostate gland, seminal vesicles, spermatic cord, the vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, the urethra. Okay, so these are the content of the pelvic cavity. Now, today we cover the basis of anatomy and physiology. Look at definitions, we look at level of organization. We also look at anatomical terms, planes, cavities, In our next lecture, we're going to explore the other system of the body. Now, if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell